Hi everybody, Dr. Audrey Ray. Today is day 7 of my 2-week challenge of sharing some insights with you. And today I'd like to talk to you about seeking perfection because I know for me it was a major transformation in beliefs. And it's something that's been very important in my career as well as my personal life. And I still see it in some clients. And I see it a lot in social media posts where we have people who believe that perfection is the best standard they can have, and other people who are very much beyond that, and the two don't really quite understand each other, I think, because they have a different perspective. So I'm going to tell you about how I changed my own perspective on this. I used to definitely be somebody who was obsessed with perfection. As a kid, I needed straight A's on everything. Everything had to be perfect at all times. And it was a way for me to feel secure, to also base my self-worth in how well I was accomplishing things. So it was a really big part of my value system, my beliefs, my behavior, everything that I needed and was attached to. So I was really hardcore needing perfection. And maybe about 10 years ago, I was in training with other coaches. We were learning about peak performance. We were just learning so many strategies about doing always better, faster. It was heaven for me because I loved everything that was talked about in this training, and I was surrounded by like-minded people. It was being taught by probably the master of high performance. So I was in heaven until he said, perfection is the lowest of standards you can have. And I feel like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm not sure I really, wait, I don't think I get it. What is that about? Perfection is the lowest of standards. So in one way, he had my attention. On the other way, he had definitely hit a nerve because I felt that it was wrong. I wanted to understand and I was hating this moment all at the same time. So basically what he explained is that perfection is the lowest of standards because number one, it is completely subjective. There are very few occasions where we can tell what is perfect. In most occasions, we don't really know what perfection truly is. I mean, unless you're working with your accountant and you're doing bookkeeping, things like that are very black and white. But in most cases, so much is subjective that when you're looking for perfection, you can't really agree with everybody on what even perfection is. So it's a really poor standard to have in the sense that it's hard to define. And even when you know what perfection is, or at least you think you know, in most cases it's very difficult to even reach it. So you're setting a standard that in most cases, either you won't know what it is, or you'll know what it is, but you won't be able to reach it. So I started feeling like, okay, maybe perfection isn't quite the right standard for me, but I don't like mediocre. I don't like average. I don't like hearing good enough is good enough. That just absolutely drives me crazy. I have higher standards. I hate when people say good enough is good enough. Drives me berserk. So I thought, well, let's see where he's going to go with that. But I'm still very much attached to very high standards. And he didn't say learn how to settle or lower your standards. What he said is go for outstanding, go for extraordinary. And I feel like, okay, I can go with that. That definitely is something I can integrate into my life. And what this means is choosing certain standards that you will hold yourself accountable to meet. But you're just meeting those standards, you stop seeking perfection. And let me tell you why this is really important. For those of you who are seeking perfection at all times, be honest with yourself. How does it feel? Because with most people, when you're seeking perfection, you're never really happy, you're never really satisfied, because it always feels like something could have been better, something isn't quite as good as it could have been. And I remember when I was younger and really not knowing any of that, I could very well be on vacation, and on the vacation deciding all the stuff I want to do better next time, taking a different flight, different airline, doing something different, scheduling things differently, instead of just being in the moment and enjoying my vacation and enjoying really all the beautiful things that were there. My mind was still looking into how can I do it better next time. If I fly out on a Tuesday, will there be fewer people on the plane? Are there better chances of having more space? It was just non-stop process improvement. So when we have this mindset of always looking for better, 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 and seeking perfection in every decision we make all day long, first of all, we're never really happy because we always see something that could be better. It takes away from the joy, but also it makes us very critical. We can be self-critical and we can be very critical with other people. And if you're telling yourself, I have high standards with myself, but with other people, I don't put the same pressure on them, so I'm really not that critical with them, I would say think again, because even if you don't explicitly criticize people and point out imperfections, they're watching you. They're watching how you behave, how you make decisions, how you talk about yourself, and they can very well be developing insecurities even if you don't point out in which ways they're not good enough. They can be just comparing themselves to you and feeling that just as strongly as if you were quite mean and really critical. So even when you try to be non-critical and to be nice and understanding and show empathy and compassion and all that, when you're living this life of always seeking perfection and in your mind you're critical, if you are typically unhappy, you unknowingly may be creating an atmosphere that is not really positive for your employees. And nobody will ever say it to your face, but it is a possibility. I'm not saying it's true for you. There's all sorts of people watching this. For some of you, it's true. For others, it's not. But at least consider it. Ask yourself if perhaps some of that is true. One thing I can tell you for sure is true if you are seeking perfection is that there are moments in which you are investing far too much time and energy into something that doesn't matter. Maybe you put too much energy on, I don't know, double checking, triple checking. I know it happens sometimes. I have clients who tell me we have a culture of seeking perfection, so we double check, we triple check. And when I hear this, obviously I'm thinking process improvement. So I will ask my client, as you do your double and triple checking, what kind of errors are showing up? Do you see patterns? How can that be prevented? What can be done differently? Because my mind automatically goes into let's prevent those errors. And most often they tell me, oh no, we don't see any discrepancies. It's correct. There's no error. So basically they are checking, double checking, triple checking, and it's not adding any value. And it looks like, but that's the right thing to do because you just can't even imagine, let's say, sending a report to your president that isn't perfect. You just can't imagine the shame and the regret and the emotional pain and the drama of hearing from your boss if something isn't perfect. But what happens when we go into that culture of paranoia where we are checking too much because we're not trusting, we are spending too much time on things that don't matter, which means that there's going to be hours that are simply not available for important things. So if you're finding yourself putting out fires all day, being stuck in the day-to-day, all of this operational type activities, and no time for strategic planning, strategic thinking, process improvement, training your staff, then ask yourself, are you really the type of leader you want to be? Because if seeking perfection means that you spend too much time on just about everything, and maybe the morale isn't so great because of the tension and the pressure that's created in that environment, and now you're realizing that you don't have time for actual leadership type work, you're working as a manager, not so much as a leader, because you're not inspiring people as well as you could, and maybe you're not thinking in strategic ways to the extent that you could. So now look at all of the implications. You're seeking perfection. It could be hurting your career. Maybe you're branding yourself as a micromanager. I mean, just think about all the implications that could be there. So I'm going to stop here because, again, I don't want to create paranoia and I don't want to sound like I'm making judgment. I don't even know who will be watching this video anyway. I'm just planting a seed in your mind that if you're seeking perfection, maybe instead you can change your standards and consider going for extraordinary or outstanding. It's still something you can be very, very proud of, but by clarifying what your standards are, you can meet them, you can be happy about that, you can communicate expectations to your staff so they feel empowered and they feel set up for success because they know what it takes to please you, instead of thinking, oh no, if I make one tiny mistake, she's gonna catch it. Or if I do one little something that isn't the way he likes it, he's going to be pissed. So lots and lots of food for thoughts. I hope this gave you some good ideas. I'd love to read your comments. So please drop me a comment below and I look forward to reading them. Have a great day. Bye.